this part of the webinar is really to allow participants that is in a smaller group to maybe ask questions if you don't have the time as before, but also to go more in deeper into one of the aspects of on how to empower rural youth voices to participate in policymaking. And this one is again something that it has been mentioned a full amount of times, and is meaningful participation. It's not about creating an ad hoc event that happens once every 2 years that we are considering and really mainstreaming youth voices into policymaking, but it's something that is way of a bigger process and that requires a lot of stakeholder collaboration. I'm going to be moderating this with my colleague Julie. Is going to be taking notes in online Miro board about what are the main barriers connected with that, what could be solutions, and what can be recommendations that we can bring up, and we will consider this when we also draft the highlights report that we produce for each webinar. So if you have questions, please bear them for a few minutes, because what happened now is that, as we said, everybody here comes with a lot of knowledge and with a lot of experiences. And with all of you submitting this expression of interest to writings that you said you will share with others to contribute to debate. So I've been already in touch with a number of you to see how we can kick off the debate for the group discussion, and we're going to have a couple of you already sharing your experience. And the first one is you, Sara. I'm seeing you in the screen, Sara Pane. With I don't know if also if Davide is here or is there with you. You are from Italy, from the Give Back Giovani Aree Interne initiative. And we've been in touch a couple of times when we were preparing the webinar. You were telling us a lot how you were trying to increase facilitation of meaningful participation in your concrete rural area, in internal area in Italy. So, Sara, what you would like to? I think you have also a little presentation for us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Patricia, for having us. We are here with Davide, but also with Roberto Sullo, who is the founder and the president of this youth-led association. I will try to share the screen if I can, so that maybe you could see. I hope that you see it properly. So basically, welcome everyone. We are representatives of Give Back Giovani Aree Interne, that is a youth-led association, as I was mentioning before. We are a team made of researchers, students, people that deal with politics, so young activists, but also experts that operate in different sectors, like the economical one, the social one, and the cultural one, that are crucial for our rural areas in Italy, but also all over Europe. What do we do, basically? We organize several kinds of activities, and the main goal is that of creating a big network of young people and policymakers, but also to strengthen the already existing network that has to be reinforced, so as to give young people the chance to speak louder what are their needs, because as we know in Italy, but also in other rural contexts, youth people do not feel involved in politics. They do not feel heard. So what do we do, basically? It was nice to listen to the because many people mentioned activities like hackathons, like laboratories in which participants can develop their ideas to enhance the development and the innovation of rural areas. And this is also what we are doing in Italy. Last year, we did a hackathon tailored on public policies. We are now launching our new Erasmus project aimed at creating ideas for social innovations, but also economical development of rural areas in Italy. Where does this idea comes from? It comes from an analysis of the background that shows that, in fact, Italy, and especially rural areas in Italy, suffer from the population and from what I was mentioning before as the growing distance between policymakers and young people. So we try to create this community that thinks globally but acts locally, so as to innovate policymaking in Italy and to bring, this is what we try to do, a fresh air. So to involve young people and to show that young people can really contribute in this. My colleague Davide will give you later a few more insights on the pillars that help us in shaping new kind of collaborations between young people and policy makers. But just a few words on culture and education that represents two main words on which we are founding our mission. And then I will try to move. Okay. What is the policy framework that regulates our action, and what is meaningful for us also to tell you as a good experience that can be also considered to be replicated in other cultural and cultural contexts, that of the legacy, because Giovani Interne is an association that develops from a previous Erasmus project that was funded, that was funded 2 years ago. From that moment, we decided to build a community based on our networks. That is something that is pretty that is working, we can say. But as you might see, we also have other points that defines our policy framework. It's worthy to be mentioned, not only the European dimension, but also the Italian one, so the national strategies that enable us, also economically speaking, but not only, to implement our activities. In fact, also, when we are trying to build this network among young people and policymakers, we take in strategies, but also what Italian strategies offer, so as to reflect in this logic of multi-level governance. So that's an overview, and I will now leave the floor to my colleague Davide, so that he will more insight on what we really do. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara, for the presentation. And I will just spend a few words on what we learned from our previous experience about rural area management. I think we can say there are 3 keywords for us that are knowledge, network, and creativity. You can go to the next slide. And practically for us, it's like when we had the chance to talk with young people, but also with entrepreneurs from rural areas and also political actors. Something that people want is rural area needs some revitalizing action. And we think that creativity is some kind of keywords for that. It's like people need to be creative about the future of rural area, because the demographic trends are very negative, and also the urbanization process that we are living in Europe leave not so much space for action. And so we need new kind of ventures and ideas to reshape this reality. But creativity alone cannot be the solution. We need also the knowledge. So we have to understand the problems, understand and how to evaluate and how to shape our solution on that side. So that's why we are founded as a think tank, and also why there are so many academics between us, like me and Sara, because we think that studying and analyzing, we can best way to support initiatives and to, let's say, root them in the reality of the issue we want to face. But it's also fundamental. I don't think rural on their own. They need they need to network with institutions outside rural areas. In our case, for example, are universities in cities, but also the European Union itself. We are born out of the Erasmus, and we have contacts with people like Rural Pact and also organizations that are kind of far from ruralities themselves. But we think that this is a way to find a good solution and to implement them in the best way. As Sara said, we will launch a new Erasmus in the next months, and we hope that we will have the chance to find new people that want to share their knowledge and also their solution and confront with us on how to reshape rural area in the near future. And in the next slide, you will find also our contact. So we will be very glad to exchange information with you and talk with you about this topic.
Thank you very much, Davide and Sara. I don't know if any of the participants want to ask questions, so to comment, you can either raise your hand, you can use the chat, whatever you want. I think that is remarkable from your project. You mentioned this legacy. There was this Erasmus Plus opportunity that created the means for young people to connect, and using these different methodologies to be creative, as you said, like the hackathons, the participatory labs. So something, and this was also mentioned by some of the projects that we hear about in the panel in the morning. These processes that empower them to develop projects that feel close to them, close to their needs, close to the rural areas, and therefore they feel more meaningful. One thing, at least if there is no questions from anybody yet, one thing, Sara and Davide, that I wanted to ask you is about this network you mentioned. I mean, your initiative is not only a network of rural youth, but you are bringing experts, you are bringing policymakers into that network, and I think that liaises very well with others we're hearing in the morning. The importance of mentorship, the importance of having those role models, not only for other youngsters, but for policymakers that encourage you to participate. For instance, Hannah was mentioning about these stereotypes sometimes when a young person takes the floor in a room to take a decision. So what I was wondering, what I wanted to ask is, how did you manage to create this network? I imagine there was from different backgrounds. How did you manage to engage the policymakers so that they are not only there when you are coming and you are having these activities, but they actually became part of this sustainable network that, if I remember well, you said this sort of steering committee that is part of your organization. So can you mention a bit that of the steering committee with all these programs?
Maybe I can say something, then Davide, you can add whatever you think is relevant. What is characterizing our scientific community, and also the way we interact with policymakers? For instance, we do come from regions of Italy. So I do come from the north, but I study in Rome. So I have my previous network from northern Italy. Then I'm creating the new one in Rome, and especially in Italy, I'd say the networks is very useful. So this is something that that is helping a lot. That's why we can engage with academics. For instance, as Davide mentioned, our PhD students. So we can we ask our universities, and also the response they gave us is interesting, because sometimes they are really impressed to see that young people want to improve the society. So they accept to engage in the challenges with us. Sometimes it's more difficult, so it takes time. But what is useful is to know someone that is already in the network and to rely on these contacts. This is one of the most useful things that I have noticed. I don't know, Davide, if you think something else.
Just to add something, I think we found all scientific committee and ourselves like mostly about in a random way initially. Like it was the initiative of Roberto to organize this Erasmus in the south of Italy. That it's a very courageous thing to do, because it was like a very far village from all the main, let's say, transportation hub in the south. And then it became like a sort of cascade effect. It was like we met, and then each one of us knew someone, like, for example, older scholars and policymakers that had an interest in the topic. So each one of us tried to capture someone to bring him in the research committee. And it became like almost natural. Every time we invite someone to the research committee or to the think tank itself, they bring someone new. So it's like a script in which a snowball effect, like in which every time we invite someone, and also you discover new people that are interested in the topic, they don't have any connection to explore the topic. Even professors and like mayors of rural villages, other policymakers who have an interest in the topic, but at the end they don't know anyone else. And then they discover us, and they found there are other people who instead are very interested in rural area, and with, let's say, a space where we can connect with each other. So it became almost natural that the first professor invited other two professors, and the first entrepreneur invited other two entrepreneurs, and it became a sort of connection like that.
I would just say that is almost the same with policymakers, because this was based also on policymaking, on the policymaking dimension, and the same especially with local councillors or people working at the local dimension. The fact of knowing someone is really helping us in shaping our activities.
Okay, I see. So leverage the contacts and cascade effect, and I imagine that had required quite some work from you on identifying the right people and then building from there. So this morning we were mentioning about this outreach strategies and communication and to tailor this, and this quite some time until the initiative is put in place. Hello, Fabina. Good morning. Yes.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Also from Italy and also from an internal. And you are right now at the moment, you told me in this facilitation Facilit-Azioni project to start conversations between youth policies and local entities, particularly mountainous areas. So can you a bit of how is this experience going? Also, if you can already comment maybe on how you are motivating these youngsters and these policymakers to engage, as the question from Martin answered.
Yeah, I think that we all have ideas, but nobody has a clear answer to that, and that's why we're all here. So thanks for having me. And I'm very glad to be here with also Give Back Giovani Interne. I'm sure that maybe this could be the beginning of a nice collaboration. So first I want to introduce briefly our association. It is called RIFAI. That's like an acronym for Rete, Italiana, Facilitatori, Aree, Interne. We are a network, a national network of young people living all around Italy. So we're both like people who were born and raised in inner areas, which are the rural or mountainous areas in Italy. We are also people who decided at some stages of our life to move to the rural areas or mountain areas. But we have also many organizations in our network that every day work for the local development of their territory. We were born back in 2020, and yeah, we work in many fields, mainly the empowerment of youth, sustainable tourism, and we try to change the narrative around the inner area, which is something that has been already raised as an issue before. And also another important point of our action is the advocacy, because we believe that policymakers have to create policies which put rural people, young people at their core to contrast the population and creating places that are attractive for youth. And that's already something that has been explained before. So in the few minutes I have, I want to mention two actions that we took. The first one is that we wrote a manifesto, which is a statement of like recommendations for policymakers to create a sustainable future for inner areas, putting youth people at their core. But then we realized that just writing down recommendations is not that useful, and we engage in an active discussion with policymakers, and that's why we started this Facilit-Azioni project, which is the one you mentioned before, Patricia. And this one is a pilot project, so now we're just implementing it in Piedmont region, Valle d'Aosta region. If you're familiar with the geography of it, it's in the north of Italy. There is a major city, Turin, but then also many municipalities in the mountain areas. And so our idea that with this project, we want to foster a dialogue between the young people living there and the mountain unions. I don't know, it is the exaggeration of that. The mountain unions are a political body, which is a network of municipalities, and decided to start working on that level because we know that municipalities are quite small, especially in the mountain areas. They have maybe like 100 inhabitants and no real power. But then working at the regional level is also quite challenging. So why we wanted to focus on that way, like, because I think that we can achieve a high impact because mountain unions are more equipped to face challenges than municipalities. Still, they're linked to the territory. So we're doing that. First, we hosted some trainings for our network, and the idea was to better understand how mountain unions work and what they can do. And also we had interesting talks with mayors and the presidents on some other unions. And yeah, before I was thinking during our first half of this morning that...
Sorry, Fabiana, I think we lost you. At least I cannot hear you. I don't know if it's the same for the others.
No, on your side, Patricia, I could.
Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry, Robert.
So can I go on?
Yes,
okay.
yes, sorry.
Okay.
It was my bad. It was my internet connection.
Okay, fine. I was already, oh my God, what's going on? Thanks. Yes, reflecting on what I heard before, that we heard about so many interesting experiences of young people going to the European Parliament and so on, while we decided to start small. And also because even though today we all agree that young people should be involved in the then territories that deep, and that's why I think that we should start working in the local areas and in the territories. So now, after this training, we created of young people that have started to create contacts with some mountain units that we selected. And again, we start small. We will start by engaging in a dialogue with them. We don't want to go to the mountain unions and say, okay, that's what we should do. You should do that. Like giving a set of already prepared tips on how to engage better the youngster in the territory. Instead, start from what they're doing and maybe the challenges that they're facing, and together did something. So this, for us, at least, first step toward a long-lasting, hopefully, relationship with the mountain unions to co-create new policies that are tailored on the needs on the territory and that put youth at their core. Thing that I haven't said maybe is that all this dialogue is aimed to create youth policies that maybe can foster the interest of young people to stay in the territory or maybe move there. And if we succeed in that, we would like to spread this idea, this project also to the regions we are active in. So RIFAI is a national network, as I said before, and has many regional groups. We start in pilot region, but then we hopefully can use the format and also spread this project in other regions. And that's it. I hope I had the chance to give you at least an idea of what we're doing here.
Thanks a lot, Fabiana, for sharing these training opportunities you are creating with the Mountainous Union. I see there are the debates in the chat. I'll give you the floor in a minute, Hannah, but I also wanted to invite Petra Cule. I think you are also here, and if you can unmute yourself to share also very briefly a last of, let's say, inspirational of creating meaningful participation, a very concrete example, which is in the design of participatory budgets in rural schools. Are you here, Petra? Can I see you?
Yes. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm here. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Petra, how are you?
Hi,
Yes, we do.
everyone.
Good
Hello,
morning.
everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm really glad we mentioned the Erasmus Plus today several times because my example is going to be exactly that. As Patricia said, my let's say good practice example is using participatory budgeting as a tool with young people with an aim of promoting active participation. So what we have done for 2 years now in 2 different projects, and we plan to continue on implementing, is actually Key Action 1 Erasmus Plus projects. It's youth participation activities project where we are implementing participatory budgeting in schools with young people aged 13 to 15. So how does it work in practice? We are implementing trainings for young people on the following topics: communication and presentation skills, in order for young people to be able to communicate well what they need and what they want. Second one is project management skills training, in order to be able to manage their own project and to be able to address idea in a profound way. Then, of course, we have trained on decision-making processes and local authorities, so they're aware of all the levels there are in the community. And last but not least, of course, it's the participation. After all the trainings, young people develop their projects based on their needs assessment, and usually their projects are mostly related to their school, but also sometimes it's something from the local community. We actually fund those projects in an amount of €1, which is something that we can use from the project. So in the end, it's not that we educate young people, then they have an idea, then they see the problem, but then nothing happens. We actually pay for the idea, we provide funding, so the whole process is completely closed. We find this method of working with young people in schools with participatory budgeting as a great tool of, let's say, kind of promoting the tool also to the decision makers, to let them see that it's not something really complicated and that it is not necessarily something that needs a lot of funding. Also, participatory budgeting is a great way of deliberative democracy, which is quite doable in small micro areas. So, for example, of course, it's a lot easier to implement participatory budgeting, let's say, in school than in the whole community. This way, we get young people who are aware of the deliberative processes, but we also get decision makers who are aware of the whole process and how the process should work. Why am I saying this? Because participatory budgeting is not being implemented in our communities at all, at least not from the aspect of decision makers. So there is no participatory budgeting, and the local community is not involved in a way policy making or decision making. In this way, we provide space for participatory budgeting to be able to work in some other areas, or let's say micro communities such as school, or I don't know, maybe an NGO or youth council or something like that. I think that's it. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you, Petra, for this concrete project process of empowering them in communication skills, project management, decision making, but then to full the cycle, as you said, that there is a budget there that is allocated from the project, so that the small scale, I mean micro, I think you said that word, project designed by the youngster as part of the schools of the rural community can be implemented. And this has been mentioned by several other speakers today. We are speaking about small scale initiatives, but you have to start small and then to hopefully scale up.